Raila Odinga was in Tatu City to launch its construction. He was accompanied by many leaders. Tatu City will be a city within a city.
My friend Zayenga says he is not a main speaker. I don't know what the main speaker is supposed to say because he has said it all. But I see some of my friends around here. Chris Kirubi, one of a very accomplished entrepreneurs in our country here. Chris. Then I have also my other friend, Ambassador Kathrima. He's also here, has not been mentioned. Okay. Then I have also one of the businessmen around town and also in Western Kenya, Mr. Sam Makiaga. The Iron Lady, former mayor of Thika Town, former member of Parliament of East African Legislative Assembly, Madam Mumbingaru is there. And my former Councillor Kamau is also here. Mike Njeru is also there. And Raila Jr. is also here. Now, I want to make a confession that I've been associated with this project for a long time. Steve here and me have been there in another incarnation. One time we attended with him a conference there in St. Petersburg, in Russia, where we had interactions with President Putin. And then they had conceived this idea of Tatu City. Tatu City has walked a journey. It has been a journey that was full of ups and downs and so on. But they have reached where they've reached. And I want to congratulate them for what they have achieved so far. I came from Addis Ababa this morning because of this invitation. And he came to the airport and picked me on a chopper. And we flew, I told him, let us just do a bird's eye view of the project. So I think from where I'm sitting now, I've got a better view of this project. We flew over by a chopper and he showed me the extent of land and the plans and all the projects that are in here. It's a very magnificent piece of investment. So I want to thank the promoters of this project. Now, there are two matters here I want to talk about. One is housing, but I cannot do better than what Charles has said already about housing. But let me just take you around the journey down the memory lane. When did the rain begin to beat us in terms of housing? Some, and I know very few in this audience, were around at independence. You remember during the colonial periods, a number of housing was constructed in most of our urban centers. Immediately after independence, the rural-urban migration started. Many people began to migrate from the rural areas, getting into cities, towns. The government of the day then came up with the idea of go back to the land. The people should not come to the town, they should go back to the land. You can excuse them because nobody knew that this rural-urban migration was going to be a global phenomenon. People went back to the land but found nothing useful to do and quickly came back. In those days, they called even some songs. Mzee kasema rudi mashambani. Rudi mashambani. But they went to the land and there was nothing to do, they came back to the cities. But because the government expected them to stay there, nothing was done to respond to this need for housing. So when they came to town, they started putting up shelters, temporary shelters here and there. These shelters eventually became bigger and bigger. Then the government christened them as informal settlements. That is the slums. That is the genesis of slums in our urban areas. You have them Kurukwanjenga, Kangwari, Kibra, and all over. So it reached a stage when about 60% of the residents of our city live in slums. And the picture is replicated in other urban areas. So when I, in my other early incarnations, became in charge of housing, I was Minister for Roads, Public Work and Housing. This is the sorest state of affairs that I inherited. And I found a housing policy which was developed in 1967, which was archaic and not in conformity with the realities. So the first thing I did was to come up with a new housing policy. And then I traveled around the world to look at how people had dealt with this kind of situation. I went to Malaysia, I went to Singapore, I went to Korea, and Hong Kong. In Korea, there's a policy which was developed by a Korean dictator called General Park Chung-hee. It's called Somuldong philosophy. And they used that philosophy to modernize Korea and build sufficient housing for the people. In Malaysia and in Singapore, they came up with a policy of government getting involved. And I don't actually agree with Hinga that you leave it purely to the private sector. It must be a kind of a partnership. The government must be involved, because if you leave the private sector motivated purely by profit, the poorer people will suffer. Because the higher it is, the better for them. And that's why the government must come in to regulate. And also some areas, the government must also get involved in development. But then what we did, we came up with this idea, and this is what is being implemented. And what Hinga has not said, what has been misunderstood, it is not really a taxation, 1.5. It is an investment. But this has completely been misunderstood, because it entitles you to get a house, and when it is rolled properly around the country. In Malaysia and in Singapore, in Malaysia now, 86% of the population live in these kind of houses. And that's how they solved the problem of housing deficiency in their countries. So this is something that needs to be rolled out in our country. And as Stephen himself said, when they finish this phase, they will also look at low-cost housing in this particular area. But now let us look at the project itself. Housing, we talking about housing merely because we came to launch a housing project. But this project here is a special economic zone project, an SEZ. SEZ is a new concept that was developed in other countries, particularly in Asia, to enhance faster socio-economic growth. You find them in Malaysia, you find them in Singapore, in Korea, and so on. In China, those who had started it in Singapore and so on are the ones who went to help the Chinese to develop them. And they developed them along the coastal cities. You have them in Shenzhen, in Guangzhou, in Shanghai, and so on. Now, the first thing is land. That land must be made available for this kind of development. In China, of course, the government was able to give large tracts of land for this development. Here, of course, land has to be bought. And as Hing has mentioned, the cost of land in this country, unless it is properly addressed, will scare away investors in our country. This is an issue of great national importance that must be addressed. Why do investors troop to Tanzania? Because Tanzania, the whole land belongs to government. And if you want so much land, they just go and tell you how many, 5,000 acres, take it. And develop it, because they know that what you are going to do is going to be beneficial to the people of Tanzania. We talk of the high cost of building railways, for example. The moment any development is coming, people know money is coming. People run to go and buy. Like when a railway line is coming, people go and buy land along where the railway line is going to pass to come and sell exorbitantly. And we have established an institution called the National Land Commission. We thought that by putting up an independent land commission, we'll move away from the abuses that we had experienced during the single-party dictatorship. I think we are very wrong, because this animal has become even worse than the system that we had before. The Kolkata coast of the SGR, Mombasa to Nairobi. You see, railway used to be the biggest landowner in the country. When they constructed then Kenya-Uganda Railway from Mombasa to Kisumu, from the main rail line, 1 mile to the left and 1 mile to the right was all railway land. From Mombasa all the way to Kisumu. So anybody who built within that area was a squatter of the railway. So the railway did not therefore need to buy any land. They are building a similar SGR from Tanzania, from Dar es Salaam, through Morogoro to Dodoma. And they are building it on the same railway line, so they are not buying any piece of land. You will be told that, oh, they are building it cheaper. They're doing it cheaper because of the cost of land. They are building 500 kilometers of SGR from Dar es Salaam to Dodoma at $2.2 billion. And that's how much did our Mombasa and Nairobi cost us. And how much of that went into land. So this is an issue that must be addressed as a matter of urgency. You have the governor saying here that the land used to be 15 million shillings per acre. That with this development, it has now gone up to 30 million, and is actually thanking them. Yeah, the wrong mentality. Which was, as a governor, you should say it should be cheaper for the people. Because what is land? Land is nothing unless there is capital on it. About 3 weeks ago, I went with ministers to Kisumu to launch a special economic zone in industrial park. And then that land belongs to the county government. When some youths were hired to come and carry placards, you've come to do land grabbing. Then I told them that, look, land is nothing unless there is capital. You'll be fighting over land. This is our land, ancestral land. Your great-grandfather owned it, looked at it, and died poor. Your grandfather looked at it and died poor. Your father looked at it and died poor. You will also look at it and you will also die poor. Unless there is capital, that will make land productive. And this is what we need to teach our people. So land needs to be made productive through investment. And special economic zones is the way to go to uplift our country, to realize the objectives of Vision 2030, which is meant at uplifting our country from a struggling third world economy to a middle income country by the year 2030. And as we are talking right now, there are how many? We have got Lamu, then there's Mombasa, then there's now Nairobi, then there's Naivasha, and Kisumu. These are areas where we want to put special economic zones. And these special economic zones, investors will come. You've already been told how many factories have already been set up here, and how many more are underway coming here. So you're not just building houses for people to come and rent and go to Nairobi. People are going to be working here. So this is going to create employment, not only for the population in the surrounding area here, but for other people going to come. And people will come from Nyeri, people will come from Machakos, people will come from Kajiado to get work here. So it is job creation. It's a national project. It is not just a county project. And this is very critical. So we are trying to create growth centers which will create wealth and create employment for our people. This is how we can move our people from poverty to prosperity. Housing, as Inga pointed out, is one of the fundamental rights enshrined in our Constitution. Rights to shelter, right to life, right to food, right to education, right to good health. So right to shelter is important, but right to work is also a fundamental right of our people. And that's the reason why we must embrace this idea of special economic zones in our country. We need now here to protect them. The legislation is not adequate. There's still too much bureaucracy. And this is something that we need to look at. The legislation relative to the special economic zones. Because if you're going to be subjecting them, because so many investors are coming in here, to approvals by county government, approve this, a lot of money is going to go down there and too much bureaucracy. So we need to have a special legislation relative to special economic zones. And this is something that I'm suggesting to the government we need to work on so that we encourage more investment in our country. It's very important. So I think I really want to congratulate the promoter of this project. They've done a good job, and I look going forward, more employment is going to be created here in this part of the country. I came, as I mentioned, I was invited.
Very happy as a county government to work closely with the Tatu City Management, led by Chris Bannon. We have approved all the plans that have been presented to us for implementation. The previous bad blood between me and Chris Bannon is over. We are now working very, very closely, and I must say that we are ready to continue with that good relationship. Mr. Jennings, we are going to work on a road that cuts across Tatu City to join the other side of the main road to Githunguri, which will ease the jam at the Ruiru town. So very, very soon, this place is going to be different after construction of that road. But before I proceed, I have some people I would like to introduce. I have the local MCA, the local representative who is elected by the people in this area is just standing there. Just come so that the boss can see you. Let Mr. Jennings see the person who is manning the area. A message to reach the people, the members of parliament. I think now you have a messenger you can easily send. And I know for him also to be here as an investor, I know he is going to invite so many people, and I know he's a man of influence. I wanted also to mention that we have some very dignified people here in the name of a senior lawyer, Mr. Munari. I think you can just wave. People should know that you are a senior counsel in this country. He's a senior counsel in this country. We also have your neighbors here, read by one Mzee here. I think it's important that he's recognized. He's from Anima, just across the other side. He's a leader in this area. And what I would like to make very clear is that as a county government, there are so many things that we are going to partner with this estate. In the field of water, I know there are a lot of things that we are supposed to partner. On the field of garbage collection, there are a lot we need to partner together. So at least as a county government, I know very soon we have talked with Mr. Chris Barron. We need to come so that we have a committee that will be following up on the issues that we need to do together. Otherwise, we are very, very proud that Tatu City has also increased the value of properties in this area of Kiambu. Tatu City being here, all the neighboring plots that were previously going for maybe an acre for 15 million, from this development, they have shot up to 30 million just because of Tatu City. So we are very, very proud that it is here within our county, and I want to promise, as the head of this county, that I'll cooperate with you 100%, and I'll make it very, very easy for anybody who want to invest in this Tatu City area to develop their properties. So just be assured, Mr. Jennings, that from now henceforth, Kiambu County Government and Tatu City Management are working very, very closely. I am also with some other very important people that if I don't mention them from here, I know I start some other local battles. I have with me here Mr. Kakuyo. I had seen him around. Okay. Then my deputy governor is here. Is Mr. Nyoro, my deputy in the Kiambu County. And I must say that we shall support you, Mr. Chris. Every day we will be ready to receive your call, and we shall be ready to come and even at our level to solve any problem that will be between ourselves. Because I know our people, you know, we have so many people coming here for supervision. I know if there is any issue, just call me directly and I'll come.
City. Right Honourable Raila Odinga, Governor YT2, PS Hinga, Stephen Jennings and all other dignitaries. I'd like to begin by commending the government for the launching of the Big Four agenda. We firmly believe this initiative will greatly progress the lives of many Kenyans and the country as a whole. Since its inception, Unity Homes has focused on the 4 to 5 million shilling segment of the market because this is where there is pent-up demand in the system, and we are proud to be a part of the journey to bridge the housing gap in Kenya. I'm sure I do not need to get into specifics, as this has been greatly chronicled and discussed in significant detail already, but historically, developers have tended to focus on the top end of the market and neglected the middle to lower end. It is therefore encouraging to see the government is now taking such admirable steps to address the shortage. I would also like to congratulate the government for signing into law the Special Economic Zone Act. This is an excellent way to encourage investment into the country and has driven our desire to deploy our capital into Kenya as opposed to even bother looking elsewhere. We are sure this policy will be highly successful in creating jobs and investment for years to come. Just a little bit about Unity Homes. We started life back in 2015 and have just completed our first very successful development in Eldoret. The development consists of 239 homes, as well as a commercial centre and other shared amenities such as swimming pool, communal hall, park, gym, a restaurant and the like. For our second development, we were clear that it needed to be in and around Nairobi, just given the nature of demand in the capital. We took the view that somewhere on the outskirts of Nairobi would be best suited due to the congestion building up in the city as it continues to expand and develop. This led us to search in a number of the suburbs around Nairobi. However, as soon as we came across the possibility of developing within Tatu City, there was no going back, and we share in the vision their endeavour has for Tatu City. There is such enormous value derived from developing here, and it's great to see this immensely exciting project take shape and also be a part of the narrative moving forward. The first project we are developing in Tatu City is called Unity West and sits on 7 acres of the 22 acres of land we have purchased. It consists of 32 apartment blocks with 12 apartments per block, totaling 384 apartments. Each apartment is 600 square feet, 2 bedroom, 1 bathroom, which are currently selling for as low as 4.2 million shillings. Now, unlike a lot of developers, we have the in-house expertise to undertake the construction ourselves, so do not have to overly rely on external contractors. The construction is essentially set up like a factory line. One team moves ahead with the foundations, followed by the shell team, then the finishing team, all under the close supervision of our quality control department, following strict quality control procedures. This means we maximize efficiency whilst delivering a truly excellent product. We expect construction to be complete in 2021 and are delighted to announce that we've already sold 20% of the project. We have done this by leveraging on both the high quality product we will offer and the promise for people to live in this fabulous satellite city. On the design, we've been very deliberate not to build too high, so have restricted the apartments to only 3 stories. This will avoid that concrete jungle feel so prevalent in many estates. This relatively low density helps foster the sense of community, which is extremely appealing for home buyers when making what is such an important decision in their life. From our experience in Eldoret, our tenants place such value on the sense of the community feel within the estate. It really is a joy to see so many kids running around, playing with their bicycle, or kicking a football about in such a secure environment. We hope to recreate the same sense of community and security in this project and will strive to ensure that it is achieved. I cannot overstress just how important community is to us at Unity Homes. We feel it is one of our value propositions and will always be a part of the company's DNA. Another salient feature of the development is the greenery within and around the estate. We have a formal 2-acre park on the western end of the estate, and we border 35 acres of riparian land to the south, which are both fantastic selling points. The estate will be equipped with facial recognition access control at the gate, carved stone benches, and will have cat's eyes all along the roads within the estate. We have found that it is these small details that make the difference between a nice estate and a truly great estate. During the construction in Eldoret, and in line with government suggestions, we felt it was important to think outside of the box when it came to the mode of construction. As opposed to traditional bricks and mortar, as adopted by almost every developer, we use a unique form of building that actually results in our houses being concrete, solid, monolithic structures. The way it works is that the formwork, which we purchased from Kumkankind in South Korea, is essentially an exact mold of each floor of the apartment block, with all of the openings and fittings pre-formed. Quite simply, We install the reinforcement bars, assemble the formwork, and pour the concrete, which makes up all of the walls, both internal and external. The time taken to complete the shell of each floor, which consists of 4 units, is only 1 week. This is considerably quicker than traditional methods and will enable us to scale up to hopefully build thousands of houses in years to come. Another major advantage is the quality of build. As all openings are pre-formed, each and every opening in the house is precise to the nearest millimetre. This is an enormous deviation from the current method of construction, which is very human dependent and often goes wrong, resulting in aesthetically poor finishes and, in worst case scenarios, structurally unsound builds. We are also proud of the jobs that we create during the construction phase of the project. We will have up to 300 people on site at one time, and given the long-term nature of our projects, are able to provide job stability for so many people. Another value addition is the extensive on-the-job training that we provide. Given the method of construction, unskilled workers are trained to use this type of formwork, which elevates them to a semi-skilled status. We have seen this transformation take effect in Eldoret, where unskilled workers were earning over double the wage they would ordinarily earn. As you can imagine, this has a far-reaching impact on employees and their families, and we intend to have a similar such scheme in this project. Before completion of this project, we'll move on to our next project in Tatu City, called Unity East. This sits on 10 acres across the road, and we expect to build in the region of 1,200 houses. We're currently in the conceptual design stage, but we have a long future here at Tatu City, and will remain in the middle to lower income housing segment for many more years to come. We believe in the future of Unity Homes, we believe in the future of Tatu City, and most importantly, we believe in the future of Kenya. Thank you very much.
The Nairobi metropolis that will transform the face of our great city and improve lives of our people. I am informed that the project will entail the construction of quality and innovative 1,200 homes in a 22-acre piece of land, with the first phase dubbed Unity West, expected to be completed by the year 2021. I also wish to congratulate Tatu City for the impressive results that you have recorded so far in the off-plan selling of the 2-bedroom apartments, which is proof that buyers have confidence in the developer's ability to design and deliver quality homes, that Kenyans really do want to own homes. Further, I note that besides Unity Homes, Tatu City is also undertaking the development of various projects, housing projects worth billions of shillings that will deliver 11,353 units on a 675-acre piece of land. And I am pleased to learn that 6,250 units will speak to our affordable housing program. And let me just pause right there and just say that one of the misinformation that is out there is that government is going to turn itself into a developer. I just want to lay that misinformation to rest. Government is not a developer, and government has no business being a developer. And I think you've all seen where we have attempted to do that. It has often not resulted in good outcomes. And so therefore, let me make it very clear. This is a public-private partnership between government and the private sector. And if all of us play to our strengths, and we all have our strengths, as government, there's a lot of things that we control and are able to mobilize that the private sector is unable to do. But also, equally, the money lies with the private sector. Government has no money of their own, and the money that we get is from you, the taxpayers. And the money that comes in has a lot of interest, have a lot of other places and priorities that it needs to go to. And certainly, we as government need to exit from spaces where private sector does well. What we need to do is to support the private sector to do what they do best. And I want to state that the affordable housing program is exactly that. We are supporting the private sector by coming up with very ambitious legislation and policy changes, because there's been a lot of policy misalignment that often pulls in different directions. And that is some of the things that we as government are trying to address. As a matter of fact, we have got 39 pieces of legislation and counting that we have laid down that we want to litigate and take them to Parliament for either amendment or enactment that will enable the private sector to do what they do best. We also have a raft of incentives, because the way we look at it, and I know this is normally a debate that we have even inside government when it comes to the question of tax incentives. But for those of you who've done economics, you know very well that to grow your economy, you've got to spend. And you've got to spend in the areas that are going to create jobs and create opportunities. And therefore, there is none better, and I stand to be corrected, than in housing. Because housing is both capital intensive and labor intensive. Our own statistics show us that for every one house that we're going to build or is going to be built in this country, we're going to create anywhere between 3 and 5 new jobs. And for an economy that is struggling to create jobs, we all need to hold hands and to make sure that this affordable housing program succeeds. The other thing that is important for us to note is that this program is not about 2022. As a matter of fact, in our Vision 2030, and the crafters and drafters of the Vision 2030, when they sat down and they went and spoke to Kenyans, we came with our national long-term strategy. And that strategy said that by the year 2030, we want to give ourselves a high quality of life. And in order for us to give ourselves a high quality of life, there were a couple of things that we needed to do. And one of them is to invest in some of what we call social justice areas. And none of them is more important than in housing. In 2010, Kenyans from all walks of life gave themselves a constitution under which they gave themselves fundamental rights and freedoms. And those fundamental rights and freedoms are non-negotiable. And Article 43, subsection 1B of our Constitution gave every Kenyan, not some Kenyans, it gave every Kenyan a right to decent homes and adequate housing with minimum basic services. And so therefore, ladies and gentlemen, as I stand here before you, we can argue and debate as to the way we get there, but we cannot argue and debate as to where the majority of our people live in decent and adequate housing. And as a matter of fact, if we don't do anything about it, and with the rising urbanization, our own statistics show that every year there's 1 million people that are migrating from rural areas into our urban areas. If we don't tackle this issue, and if we keep on kicking this can down the road for our children to pick it up, it will be too late. And some of you who live in very good and posh suburbs, high walls will not be able to protect you because there will be slums right outside your own houses. That is the reality, because we have got a major housing problem. We can disagree, and we as a State Department are very open to listening to new ideas. And that is why a great day like today, we could not miss it for anything, because we are where we are supposed to be, where people are actually doing something about it and learning about something that we can go out there and do better. This is a well master planned city. It's a mixed income. It's a mixed income, yeah, and mixed housing, where you've got high end and low end living together, where you've got all the bells and whistles. I've just listened to the CEO, talk about some of the features that are going to come in here. Face recognition, security, opportunities to go to good schools just around the corner. And those must not be for the privileged few, because that is not what our drafters of our Constitution envisioned. So, allow me, ladies and gentlemen, because I think I do better speaking from my heart than reading these papers, allow me to just indulge you a little bit about this program and why we've taken the approach that we need to take. If the point of departure is that by the year 2030, we need to give ourselves the high quality of life, and if we have got to live true to the aspirations of our Constitution, therefore, the affordable housing program needs to succeed. And as I said, it is not a one-term program. Now, what are some of the things that make affordable housing in Kenya impossible? There are 4 things which we want to litigate this morning. 1 is land. The cost of land in our country is obscenely high. As a matter of fact, the recent statistic that we got the other day shows that land in Nairobi and Nairobi metropolis is now the most expensive in the continent, if not one of the most expensive in the world. That is true. And therefore, you cannot have the word affordable housing and expensive land in the same sentence. So we gotta come together and do something about the cost of land. And that is why we want to encourage our members of parliament that they need to work on the land index bill. I know Senate passed it the other day. The members of parliament had done it in the previous government. Now they need to harmonize it. But this is a bill that has got to work so that we can kill these issues of land speculation. Number 2, we as government, we sit on a lot of land. And a lot of it, we are doing absolutely nothing about it. And as you all know, maybe, those who profess the Christian faith, they talk about what happens when there is a void. Even when you get rid of one demon, 7 more come in. If we don't do anything about our land, it's going to be grabbed, there will be squatters, and we will not be able to get value for it. And that is why under this program, we have mapped a lot of land that is owned by government and quasi-government institutions and state-owned entities. And we are releasing that land to private developers to develop affordable housing. So that is the first thing that we need to understand of how is government participating in the affordable housing. And that land will be at no cost to the buyer. So in other words, the 40-50% cost of land that is normally factored into the total cost of the development, government essentially has taken that from you as a Kenyan. The second thing that government is also doing is to release land that is not serviced is going to create more problems, because as I heard His Excellency, the governor, say that there is a road that needs to be built here. If we leave that road to be built by the private sector, guess what is going to happen? They will take the cost of that land, layer a markup, and pass that cost to you as the buyer. And so, who is best placed to take care of all the off-site infrastructure? It is government. And therefore, under this program, through partnering with the private sector, we as government are making a commitment that we will provide off-site bulk infrastructure to the site. And for those that are like Tatu City, where you're already providing it, we are working through with our National Treasury and our Kenya Revenue Authority to look at an incentive in terms of a tax allowance, so that you can write off that cost, so that you can be able to recover your cost. That is how serious government is in terms of this affordable housing agenda. The second issue is the cost of construction. Cost of construction in Kenya is also very high. And part of the reason why the cost of construction is high is partly legislation. I think we have a building code that is probably older than all of us here. It is pre-colonial. all right? It recognizes stones as the only permanent. We need to be up with the rest of the world. One of the things that we've done as a State Department is to invite what we call strategic partners. And one of the strategic partners that we have invited are people that have got good technology, because we also require and deserve good technology, building technology. I was amazed the other day when a German firm came to present to me something that is being called 3D printing. Now, I was surprised that people are printing houses nowadays. So I wanted to see it for myself, because I read it and someone sent it to me on WhatsApp. And it is true. People are printing houses. There's another group that came to present technology where once you do the substructure, they can deliver 3,000 houses a month. 3,000 houses a month. That is the kind of technology out there that we need to attract here. Why? Why is that important? It is important because those of you who understand money, there's something which is called time value of money. And the longer you take to develop, the longer it's going to cost you, because money is not free. So therefore, we need to adopt and embrace new building technologies that will allow us to accelerate the delivery of these houses. So therefore, the other thing that we have done is to adopt what is called industrial building techniques. For us to be able to come even closer to that number, 500,000 houses in this term alone, we cannot go through the traditional way of building houses. And therefore, what we have done as a State Department is that we have standardized those units, so that you know that affordable house in Homa Bay, or in Kitui, or here in Kiambu, you know what that is going to be. But why is standardization important? Standardization is important because it also brings another element. It allows us to leverage what is called large economies of scale. And anytime you leverage large economies of scale, it means you're able to bring down your cost. Because it means when it comes to buying material, you're buying bulk. It means that you're able to build faster. And the third thing that we have done as a State Department, and I started by it, is looking at processes, legislation, and incentives. If we continue to procure houses the same way we procure for stationery and milk that we drink in the offices, we're not going to build these houses. I come from a financial world. I'm an investment banker by profession, and so I understand how capital behaves. And capital does not linger around waiting for you to make a decision, and I'm sure our good investor, Mr. Kirubi, will tell you that if you, and that's a guess what has happened, is that there's a lot of people, investors, that are coming in here and saying, I have got money, I want to invest. And what do? We hammer them with processes from here to, whatever. And they take that money and there's flight of capital. So we have received what is called a specially permitted procurement, which is already enshrined in our own procurement laws under Section 114A of our Procurement Act. The other things that, and by the way, let me say, one of the things that we have got to do, Your Excellency, is to litigate this issue of procurement. Because procurement is a nightmare for especially us, the accounting officers. We sign so many things and you don't know when next you could be a guest of somebody. And when the other day I went to a school and I spoke to young kids and I asked them, what do you want to be when you grow up? And I was surprised because I expected they're going to say, I want to be an architect, I want to be an engineer, I want to be a chartered accountant, or a what do you call it, the CPA. No, they said that we want to become procurement officers. And I said, what happened? Where you can see where the rain started beating us. Because they know as a procurement officers, you've got a lot of manga business, and you'll be able to make a lot more money than a hard-working architect. Lastly, there is a report by the World Bank which is titled Unavailable and Unaffordable. It came out last year. And that publication, I'd like to encourage all of you to get a copy. It gave some very, very horrible statistics about our housing market here in Kenya. It showed that our housing annual demand is 250,000 a year. Of the 250,000, 170 is what is considered demand for low-cost and social housing. Therefore, that gives you 80,000 as the high end. Now, in terms of what the market is producing today, it horrifies you because the market is producing 50,000 every year. But of the 50,000, 49,000 is for the 3%. So therefore, it is 49 out of 80,000 for the high end that we're building. Now, I have a friend of mine here that I was with at Alliance, Sageni, and he knows very well that if you get 49 out of 80, it's a pass. And you know, you don't need to be an A student. I know most of you here are A students, but to go to the next level, you just need to pass. So let's say that on the high end, we are passing, we're okay. We can do better, but we are passing. But here is a shocking statistic. On the affordable housing, as a country, collectively, we are able only to produce 1,000 houses out of 170,000 houses. Not 100,000, I said 1,000. And so what does that mean? I mean, if you're a student again, if you get 1,000 out of 170,000, I don't know, it's not even a fail. In my view, we say you never showed up. Maybe the one day or whatever you came and you registered and did one continuous assessment test and then you left. And so that shows you why every year and successive years, why we are talking about our housing demand gap now is sitting at 2 million. So even if we do the 500,000, we'll still be in a bigger hole because remember that number is still growing. So what are we going to do? We need to sort out financing, and we have to sort out financing both on the demand side and the supply side. If we do one and not the other, we will still not be able to solve these issues. There are a lot of issues on the supply side. And that is why I'm excited to be here today, because Unity Homes and Tatu City have taken it upon themselves to build for a market that ordinarily out there they're saying it's not available. So therefore, we as government are putting a raft of incentives for you as financiers of the supply side so that you can be able to build more homes. And one of the things that we have looked at was the establishment of a housing fund. And the sole purpose of the housing fund, or the two main reasons why we wanted this housing fund, was because it's very difficult for an investor to come and put up their homes and expect people earning 50,000 shillings to buy them. Because today, if you go to a banker, they'll tell you that anybody earning less than 150,000 shillings are not bankable. Now, do you know how many Kenyans who are formally employed are earning over 150,000? It's less than 3%. 70% of all our formally employed Kenyans earn less than 50,000 shillings. 92% of all our formally employed Kenyans earn less than 100,000 shillings. Therefore, we have excluded a whole country from having the right to housing. And therefore, that is why we have come together with this housing fund, because we want the investors not to look at Wanjiko, because they are saying Wanjiko is not bankable. But if we all got money together and they build houses and we off-take them, the fund is able to fund Wanjiko at rates at which she's paying rent today. So let me tell you what that means. For social housing, which is people earning less than 20,000 shillings, you will get what is called a rent-to-own structure. You pay rent, but you own it at the end. And your interest rate is going to be at 3%, fixed for 25 years. And if you want what we call multi-generational mortgages, we will do that because the fund has got patient capital. If you're in the low-cost housing, which is 20,000 to 100,000 bracket, you will get interest at 5%, which is unavailable in the market today unless you're a civil servant or you work in a bank. And if you are in what we call the mortgage gap meaning that yes, you can go to a bank, they will say you qualify, but they will ask you to mortgage everything that you have, your cars and your children, and everybody will just have to be collateral to the bank. So they can issue you a mortgage, but that mortgage is not affordable. You'll have to pay 50% of your income to live in that house. So we are calling you mortgage gap. You are on your way to mortgage market, but you're still not yet there. You'll get mortgage at 7%. And then we go to the rest of you, because if I don't address your issues as well, most of you are going to go and say you're in the mortgage gap, because you know Kenyans are very crafty. So we also have a product for you too, the rest of the market. And I think most of you here look like you're in the rest of the market. You will get a single-digit mortgage. irrespective of how much money you earn, and you're going to get it for long term. Why do we need that? Because the cost or affordability is determined by two issues: tenure and the interest rate. At the moment, because our banks take short-term deposits, they don't have access to long-term capital. What are they doing? They take short-term deposit, and therefore the mortgage they give you is short-term. You'll be lucky to get a mortgage of more than 7 years in this country, and that is why it is impossible to repay a mortgage. For a country of 50-odd million people to have 25,000 mortgages is a shame. And lastly, I would like to end by giving you an example that this journey has moved. We're no longer in boardrooms and in doing PowerPoint presentation. We are walking the journey. And I want you to understand that us being here, we're not gate crashing on this party. No, we are a partner to this party. As government, we are coming up with a one-stop shop solution, because I know the pain you go through as investors. For you to be able to get your approval when you go to Bonanyoro and they take you from here and they take you to there. And young clerks and whatever, they are sitting on your application, and 9 months. I heard the other day, 9 months, NEMA approval. What on earth are we talking about? If we have to be a serious country, we have got to say no to mediocrity. We have got to say no to mediocrity. And to me, it is mediocre. We are not a serious country. Even approval process is going to take 9 months. And it just shows the lack of understanding of how money works. Because money does not sit around and linger and wait for you to make a decision. And guess what? That 9 months, you as an official, you're sitting out there, sitting on an application because you want to be seen nuko kando. Guess what it is doing? It is adding to the cost of affordability. So if you're a government official and you want to trade and you want to earn money, get out of government and go and start your own business. We'll give you opportunity. But don't sit in government and make it difficult for investors to get their approvals. So we are, as government, saying that we want to take over that responsibility of getting you the approvals. And therefore, when I see Unity and I see Karibu Homes and I see all the investors that have registered for our affordable housing strategic partners, you will get a certificate that recognizes that you're a strategic investor in affordable housing, and that will give you what is called a path to a fast-track approval. This year, we want to put through to Parliament a very ambitious bill that says that if you go and ask for approvals and you demonstrate that you have, fulfilled all the conditions, if 30 days come by and you have not received those approvals must be deemed as given. Because that is the only way we are going to get away from this mediocrity. So therefore, let's understand this is how serious His Excellency the President has taken this program of affordable housing, and it is very personal to him. And why is it personal to him? It is because, and some people ask, and the other day someone came to me with a bulletin and showed me that 92% of Nairobians, they rent. And I asked them, do they rent because they want, or they rent because they have no opportunity of owning? And the reality of the matter is, a lot of Kenyans don't have any opportunity to own. And if you had a path to ownership, why would you want to rent? So therefore, this program is much more bigger than the 1.5% noise that you keep on hearing about. This program is about transforming lives. As a matter of fact, we have started a program in Park Road. I see maybe you've seen it. It's been in the papers of late. Let me just give you now real statistics. Park Road is the smallest of our projects that we have today. It's 1,370 units. We handed over that site to the developer in February this year. And guess what? In September of this year, running 3 shifts a day, we are going to have the new West homeowners who represent the face of this country. People that ordinarily had no hope of ever owning a home. By October this year, they will be dangling keys as the new homeowners. And that will bridge the trust deficit that exists out there about this affordable housing program. We've created 650 jobs already for young ones, just for Park Road project alone. Last weekend, we broke ground on another program in Lukenya. 8,888 houses are already underway with our partners at UNOP. So you saw us signing in New York last year, September. So this program has taken off. What we need from you is don't be a tweeting critic. Criticize, but be part of it. Because there are opportunities that are going to be there. Who is going to supply the ballast? Who is going to supply the cement? I need 48 million bags of cement. As a country, the debate we must be having today is how can we all come together to ensure that we supply that cement? I need 18 million bars of steel. Should we get the steel from China, or must we be able to produce the steel here ourselves? I need 5 million kgs of nails. Let's forget about the complicated things. Surely we can be able to make nails. And I can go on. For Park Road alone, it is 8,400 doors that we needed. And we determined and decided that even if someone comes and says, I will give you free doors from India or China, we will not take them, because we want them to be made by our own Juakali associations. And we gave a contract to 3 Juakali associations as a pilot, which is Ngong Road, Kamukunji, and Kariobangi. 8,400 doors is equivalent to 122 million shillings directly to Juakali Association. No middlemen, no third parties. And by the way, they're already producing those doors. And they're producing high quality doors. Because our people can make doors. The problem is that we don't have trust and we don't have faith and we don't show them up. So this program is not just about 4 walls and a roof. It is about much more for this country. If I need 3.5 million doors and 8,000 doors, I got it for 122 million. Can you imagine if we made a policy today that all doors are going to be made by our Juakali Association? We have created a multi-billion industry. And guess what? You don't need to go to school to learn economics, because I can tell you that money that is going to be spent at that lower level has a greater impact on the economy of this country, because money will circulate. And people are going, the spending power is going to increase. And those same people are the same one that we want to house. So, ladies and gentlemen, I have to finish there because I am not the main speaker. But I get fired up, and I want you to get fired up and join this gospel of affordable housing, because it is a good gospel. So it gives me great honor and pleasure to invite His Excellency, the Right Honorable Prime Minister, former Prime Minister, and
Tafadhali, excuse, tafadhali. Excuse, tafadhali. Excuse me. Excuse, could you please get some space? Can you please get some space for pictures? Kindly. Excuse me. Excuse. The guy on top of the truck.